But
welcome back to the show. My name's Mark Nixon, and today is Sunday fun day. And let's be honest, news never takes a day off, and today is no exception. Today's headline story is CTV Panelist call Mark Carney's government recycled garbage. You can't make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. And guess what? I agree with them completely. You know what the saying goes is you are who you hang out with. And Mark Carney's inner circle, oh yeah, that's top level incompetence. Let's just look at Stephen Guilbeault, the radical environmentalist that has zero business in our government. And even the liberals are panicking in the background. They want something called the Reform Act ASAP. And guess what? They voted on it today, and we're going to find out the outcome. What is this Reform Act all about? Well, when Justin Trudeau was leader, he went a year past overdue. It's like that milk in your fridge that nobody touches for a year, and then it opened up, and I'll tell you, we know what happened. The Liberal Party crumbled instantaneously. It cleared everybody out. They wanted to make sure that there was a backup plan. If this ends up being a catastrophe with Mark Carney, they could get him booted. Let's get into the show.
Say they want the power to oust the party's leader if necessary. Prime Minister Mark Carney confirms caucus members will have a chance to vote on whether to adopt the Reform Act this weekend.
All recognized parties in Parliament are bound by the Reform Act. It's the law of the land. And therefore, there are these 4 votes consistent with the Reform Act that will take place. They'll take place at the first caucus meeting, which is Sunday.
A reminder, the Reform Act is a law which gives caucus the power to order a leadership review.
All right, so it is Sunday. So now we get to determine if this thing went through so that they're able to kick out Mark Carney if he doesn't work out. So let's touch on why do they want this thing. So some liberals want the ability to kick out Mark Carney if he doesn't work out. And let's take a look at this history. If you look at it, it's because MPs said they don't want to relive what happened under Justin Trudeau's government when the Prime Minister defied calls for him to resign for months before finally stepping down in January. And if you look a little bit further here, it says the Reformed Act, which took effect in 2015, gives all political parties the ability to trigger a leadership review. It was championed by the Conservative MP Michael Chung. And that's why the Conservatives were able to oust Aaron O'Toole in 2022 to replace him with Pierre Poilievre. So it looks like the Conservatives have adopted this Reform Act, and it looks like the Liberals have not adopted the Reform Act. So this was their chance to get it done. This is what articles look like this morning. Canada's Liberals are already thinking about how to remove Mark Carney. It's not personal. And we got some breaking news, Canada, from the Canadian press. Even after Justin Trudeau experience, the Liberal MPs still reject Reform Act rules. Are you kidding me? You know what? I bet you. Mark Carney selected his cabinet knowing how loyal they are. And he wasn't worried about this thing at all. He's like, I chose people for a reason. That's why he chose Stephen Guilbeault, because there's no place for someone like Stephen Guilbeault in our government. And this leads us to our next segment. It works perfectly. CTV panelists say that Mark Carney's caucus is recycled garbage. Let's get into it.
Scott, I'll start with you. Before we look ahead to the throne speech, wanted to get your assessment of how things have gone for the government so far. What stands out to you?
Couple of growing pains. I mean, you mentioned those 2 sort of cabinet out-gaffes, if you will. Lack of clarity with respect to the government's position on pipelines and energy infrastructure. I think more seriously, a strange kind of miscue from the finance minister about will there be a budget? When will there be a budget? And look, I'm reminded when I try to sort of understand this of that moment during the campaign. There was a Carney rally and someone yelled out, lead us, Big Daddy. Remember that? And everybody got a laugh. You got to. Well, I think the government has a bit of a big case of Big Daddies right now. Like you get the feeling that Ministers haven't settled into their spot. They don't know that they feel 100% comfortable with what the brief is. And everyone is looking and listening for the Prime Minister. So if the Quebec Lieutenant says he doesn't like pipelines, it's like, yeah, who cares? What does the Prime Minister have to say? What's his word on it? The Prime Minister's to go and clean that up. Finance Minister says there won't be a budget this year. Prime Minister stands up to the microphone in Rome and says, actually, we're going to have a budget in the fall. So, that kind of lack of clarity, to my mind, in some respects, it reflects this kind of one-man government. Everyone's looking to Carney. And eventually, Carney's going to have to turn to his cabinet ministers and say, I am expecting you to carry some of this burden, to be clear, to be on point. And it can't just be government by Mark Carney, communication by Mark Carney. The rest of the cabinet is going to have to pull this cart too. So I think that's what we're seeing right now. And that, I think, can be remedied pretty quickly.
You know what the problem is Mark Carney has put a dumpster fire team behind him. So he doesn't want them to say anything. Stephen Guilbeault should not be talking about pipelines when he doesn't have that file. That's the first thing. But it's complete chaos behind Mark Carney. Probably what I think is happening is he's testing the water. He gets his little minions to do something. When the public completely erupts, he does damage control. That's what he's doing right now. It's not going to last forever like this. He's going to have to man up.
Speaking of big daddies, Corey, do you agree with do you agree with Scott's assessment? I would say I understand what he's saying, but I think Mark Carney, I think the Prime Minister has certainly positioned himself as like that voice of authority, like in all of his remarks that led up to these past few weeks.
Normally I agree with you a lot, Scott, but on this one I got to say I'm on the other side of the earth. Like I think there's a lack of leadership here. Like Carney is being clear on the pipeline question, for example. What you saw is, I think, the consequence of a really bad cabinet pick, and one that should have been so completely obvious to anyone who's watched Stephen Guilbeault over the last number of years that he's been in federal politics. Like, look, he's an environmental radical whose positions on these issues have been diametrically opposed to the positions that Mark Carney took during the campaign. And it's not a surprise that somebody who's willing to go to jail on those beliefs is certainly willing to break cabinet protocol on communications around those beliefs. He's a radical. He doesn't belong in this government, in my view, or at least not in a cabinet position or anywhere near the controls. Okay, so that's not a surprise. But in terms of the questions around the budget, once again, this is yet another Liberal finance minister with no comms abilities whatsoever. Like, I know that Champagne likes to talk, but he's not a good communicator, and I don't think he'll ever be confused for being one. I think he botched the comms on what was going to happen with the fall economic statement, or is it a budget? Whether it's because he thought he didn't need to check with the PMO and freelanced it, or whether he just botched the comms outright. I don't know. I guess we'll see. But in both these cases, I think these are leftovers from the Trudeau-era that should have been left over when it came to making this cabinet.
There you have it, Canada. We have a bunch of recycled garbage. How do you expect to have a different result when you have the same old, same old? And Mark Carney, he's in way over his head. Just wait until session is open, and I can't wait to report on it. Let's move on to our next news item. And there's a news outlet called Cult Montreal. When I first saw this news outlet, I was like, what kind of news outlet would call themselves a cult? And that's all they are. Check this out. 76% of Canadians say they are boycotting American products. Oh yeah? Is that a fact? So I have a question for you. If it is $1.14, which is the average price for gasoline in the US, and it's $1.82 in the Lower Mainland today, imagine those two gas stations were side by side. Which gas station would you fill up at? It's the same gasoline. Yeah, 76% of the people are probably going to the US gas station, not the Canadian one. Actually, I bet you 99.9% is. And you're not going to believe this next one. Melanie Joly goes on CNN and check out the reporter. He's biting his lips. It's like he's watching somebody scratch a chalkboard with fingernails. He wants to get the hell out of there, and she's not reading the room, and she's not changing her messaging. Check it out.
The world is being reorganized through economic blocks. And because of the rules of...
Wait 1 second. Also, her microphone is absolute trash. It's not working. She should be like, at least use these like headphones or something. Like, it's just terrible.
Trade being yet rewritten, we need to, as you know, as the new Canadian industry minister, we need to do the job to attract investments, to attract talent. And there is more than ever a global competition to do that. Now, what is going on right now is that there's lots of uncertainty, but we will continue to face that uncertainty. Yeah. And so our goal is to have these conversations with people in the business sector that are able to invest in Canada. You saw President Trump in the
Does
Gulf,
he look interested to be
states,
there?
You know, going around and really announcing investments for your country.
All right, I'm not going to put you through this anymore. And you want to hear the most hilarious part about the entire thing? She was bragging on her social media account that, listen to this, I was on CNN fighting so hard for Canadians. So she was publicizing that she did this amazing interview on CNN, which was a complete embarrassment to Canada. Check it out. This is her social media account and how she published this, saying, I spoke to CNN. What makes Canada unique? It's time to strengthen our ability to attract top talent and invest to grow our economy and reinforce our position on a global scale. Oh yeah, I responded. I could not respond. And you can see right here, here's my response. Dear Melanie, when the CNN anchor is biting his lips and looking away and clearly begging for the segment to end, that's not a successful interview. It's a hostage situation. Your mic is broken. Your message was repetitive and your self-awareness was non-existent. But what makes things even worse is you posted it proudly like you crushed it. You didn't read the room. You didn't read the anchor. You didn't read the moment. Please use this as a learning opportunity. The end. Remember when Justin Trudeau told us there's no business case for LNG? We got some new data that just came in saying the forecast for LNG into 2050, from today to 2050, it looks like the demand is going to flat out double the demand for LNG across the world. And Canada could be in the position to be this economic superpower selling our natural gas to the world. If demand's going to double, we should triple our output. And this is just a reminder, good news, Canada. Parliament will be opening tomorrow, Monday, after 6 months of being completely shut down. And get this, in just a few more weeks after that, they're going to be going on an extended summer holiday for over 2.5 months. You can't make any of this stuff up. What exactly are they going to accomplish in 2 weeks back in session? That's it for today's report. It's been a lot of fun. Happy Sunday to everybody. I'm going to see you on the next report. This week is going to be massive, and I'm going to cover every single moment of it. I'll see you tomorrow.